Shalom Lakem, Kal Yisrael. How's your peace, Israel? Welcome back to another video. And today we're going to deal with the topic, right, which is long overdue. We're dealing with the topic, which is what are the signs of judgment? Okay, what are the signs? We could even add of Yah's judgment. Okay, and we're going to pick it up in the book of Yashua, right? These are extra biblical sources. Go and find them. You can even buy the book. We can go and research online, right? The book of Yashua. We're going to go in chapter 5. Okay. Book of Yashua, chapter 5, right? And we're going to pick it up in verse 22. And it reads on this wise. In that time, the Lord said to Noah and Methuselah, stand forth and proclaim to the sons of men all the words that I spoke to you in those days. Peradventure they may turn from their evil ways, and I will then repent of the evil, and will not bring it. Noah and Methuselah stood forth and said in the ears of the sons of men all that God had spoken concerning them. But the sons of men would not hearken, neither would they incline their ears to all their declarations. And it was after this that the Lord said to Noah, the end of all flesh is come before me on account of their evil deeds, and behold, I will destroy the earth. So, we can see one of the signs of Yah's judgment is that he is going to tell his elect, his chosen ones, right, to give the populace, the nations, forewarning, right, that calamity is at hand, right? And as we see in that scenario, they did not pay no heed to it. They were told by Noah, but no one bat an eye, right? And this is a sign. The topic we're doing is what are the signs of the judgment? And one of the signs was that the Father's elect are going to be warning those that are in the way of destruction to get themselves right. Okay? And now this is the times of Noah. Does that have any relevance today? Well, let's read Matthew 24 and 37. All right, Matthew 24 and 37. I'm reading out the Peshitta, right? Aramaic Peshitta. And it says, but just as the days of Noah, so will the coming of the Son of Man be. Okay? So, if in the days of Noah, Noah was told to give a warning to the nations, people, that destruction was coming, expect such a similar situation when the Father judges this earth. The fact that you very much see people taking, time to create videos, edit videos to let people know about the destruction that is at hand. Shows you the similarities of yeah, the similarities of the times that we're in. And we're dealing with the topic, what are the signs of Yah's judgment? Let's continue. We're going to go into the book of Genesis, right? We're going to be dealing with some stories where the father laid his handy sign or mark to let us know his judgment was on the way. Okay? We're going to read in Genesis chapter 11, verses 1, and it reads on this wise. It says, "And the whole earth was of one language and of one speech." This is dealing at the time of the Tower of Babel. "And it came to pass as they journeyed from the east, that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. And they said one to another, Go to, let us make brick, and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone, and slime had they for mortar. And they said, Go to, let us build us a city and a tower, whose top may reach unto heaven. And let us make us a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth. And the Lord came down to see the city of the tower, which the children of men builded. And the Lord said, Behold, the people is one, that they have all one language. And this they begin to do. And now nothing will be restrained from them, which they have imagined to do. Go to, let us go down, and there confound their language, that they may not understand one speech. So the Lord scattered them abroad from thence upon the face of the earth, and they left off to build the city. Therefore is the name of it called Babel, because the Lord did confound the language of all the earth. And from thence did the Lord scatter them abroad upon the face of all the earth. Okay, so we see that the time of the flood, the Father used Noah as one of his pioneers to warn the nations of calamity. That was a sign that the word would go out to let people know that they needed to get themselves right. Okay? And to be honest, he gave them actually a time frame, right? Let's actually look at that. All right. We're going to be in the book of Yasha, chapter 5, I believe it's verse 8. And it reads on this wise, and it says, For thus saith the Lord, Behold, I give you a period of 120 years. If you will not turn to me and forsake your evil ways, then will I also turn away from the evil which I told you, and it shall not exist, saith the Lord. Okay, so we can see that one of the topic, which is what are the signs of Yah's judgment? And during the time of the flood, Noah was his masterpiece that was going to show forth the judgments that are going to occur on this earth. And he gave them a time period of 120 years to get themselves right. If they didn't get themselves right, this flood was going to come upon the earth. So before the calamity, the sign of Yah's judgment was that the word would go out. People would hear of the destruction. There'll be forewarning. Okay? And we read that this at the time as of the days of Noah, so will be the coming of the Son of Man be. So such things like in the past are going to also reoccur in the latter days, right? So we should expect for the sign of Yah's judgment, people are going to be blowing the trumpet, forewarning the people that destruction is on its way. Now we also just read from the Tower of Babel, right? That the Father confused the languages of the people. So what are the signs of Yah's judgment in this equation? Well, it's confusion. When the world is orchestrating and moving in a direction together in unison to do wickedness, one of the signs that Yah judges you is that he causes confusion. Are we not seeing it on this earth? Some people don't know if they're a man or a woman. You know, some people don't know what kind of foods they eat, what foods they should eat. People are eating cat. You know, this is confusion. They don't be fooled. Don't think that this is just by chance. This confusion is the sign of Yah's judgment. Because there's nothing new under the sun. Let's continue. We're now going to go into the book of Yashar, chapter 9, verses 35. Book of Yashar, chapter 9. This is our second witness, okay? And it reads on this wise. It says, and the Lord smote the three divisions, we're dealing with the Tower of Babel, that were there, and he punished them according to their works and designs. Those who said, we will ascend to heaven and serve our gods, became like apes and elephants. And those who said, we will smite the heaven with arrows, the Lord killed them. One man threw the hand of his neighbor, and the third division of those who said, we will ascend to the heaven and fight against him, the Lord scattered them throughout the earth. And those who were left amongst them, when they knew and understood the evil which was coming upon them, they forsook the building, and they also became scattered upon the face of the whole earth. And they ceased building the building and the tower. Therefore he called that place Babel, for there the Lord confounded the language of the whole earth. Behold, it was at the east of the land of Shinar. And as to the tower which the sons of men built, the earth opened its mouth and swallowed up 1/3 part of thereof. And a fire also descended from heaven and burned another third, and the other third is left to this day. And it is of the part which was aloft, and its circumference is 3 days' walk. And many of the sons of men died in that tower, a people without number. Another witness, right? Showing Yah's judgment or signs of his judgment is to confuse, to cause confusion. People don't know what religion to partake in these days, to the point that, we're hearing things like interfaith, where it's a way to channel the confusion to almost make everyone think that they're on the right path. And if anyone understands what interfaith is, that's the idea of like every religion believes in the same God. But that's still confusion, because if anyone knows any wiser, if you read any of the books that they're talking about that pertain to these particular religions, they all speak different to each other. You can't hold a Bible and hold the Quran in the same hand. That's confusion. You can't hold the Bible and a you know Buddhism book, right? The Bhagavad Gita, or that's confusion. You can't hold a Sikh's book and a Bible. Again, that's confusion, because there are things that contradict each other within these scriptures. And by observing one, you'd be rejecting the other. We're going to go into the book of Jubilees. The book of Jubilees. We're going to be, I believe, in chapter 10. Okay. Okay, we're dealing with the topic, what are the signs of Yah's judgment? Because we need to know the signs so that we can get prepared. Or are there signs currently occurring and we're just turning a blind eye? Okay, we're going to be in chapter 10. We're going to be in verse 23. Okay, it reads on this wise. This is the third witness of the destruction of Babel. What were the signs? It was confusion. And it says, and the Lord descended, and we descended with him to see the city and the tower which the children of men had built. And he confounded their language, and they no longer understood one another's speech. And they ceased then to build the city and the tower. For this reason, the whole land of Shinar is called Babel, which also is another word for confusion or confused speech. Babel. Someone is babbling. They are speaking gibberish, right? It's confusion, right? Because the Lord did there confound all the language of the children of men, and from thence they were dispersed into their cities according to his language and his nation. Right? So even in the current state we're in, with all these different populous nations, we are all in a form of a state of confusion. Because originally we all spoke one language. But because of our wickedness and our corrupt hearts, the Father has confounded that language, right? And it's called us to go and scatter us into different parts of the earth where we all speak different languages, right? But just to interject, he was going to return a language, right? I wonder what that language was, right? While we're here, let's just deal with that. In Zephaniah 3:9, it says, for then, right? I will turn. This is in the future, right? It says, for then I will turn to the people a pure language, that they may all call in the Hebrew, call korara, right? To call upon the name of the Lord Yahweh, to serve him with one consent, right? Is it that this same language that he's going to restore to the people is the same language that we were speaking before the time of Babel's confusion, right? We're dealing with the topic. What are the signs of Yah's judgment? We just dealt with the flood. What were the signs that happened before the flood? Noah was the beacon, he was the marker, and to let the people know the time frame they had to get themselves right before judgment. Babel, before the destruction of the place, their language was confused, right? They all started speaking different languages. That was the sign that calamity was on its way, right? Now we're going to go into the book of Genesis, chapter 19, verses 1 to 2, right? Okay. And this is dealing with when God was trying to rescue Lot. And the reason, verse 1, it says, and there came. Yeah. This is dealing with Sodom and Gomorrah. What were the signs before the destruction? Because these signs are going to let us know specifically about the topic, what are the signs of Yah's judgment, so that you can understand whether these signs are prevalent today, right? We've looked at Noah, who would represent the elect, speaking, telling people about the destruction that's about to occur. Babel, there was confusion, right? Which we're seeing to this day. There's a lot of confusion. People don't know what's up, down, or left, right. Everyone's doing things opposite to what is true. Let's see what Sodom and Gomorrah can teach us about his signs before the judgment. And it reads in verse 1, it says, and there came two angels to Sodom at evening, and Lot sat in the gate of Sodom. And Lot, seeing them, rose up to meet them, and he bowed himself with his face towards the ground. And he said, behold, now my lords, turn in, I pray you, into your servant's house, and tarry all night, and wash your feet, and ye shall rise up early and go on your ways. And they said, nay, but we will abide in the street all night. Okay? So, one of the signs of Yah's judgment is that he's going to say, send the malak, or malakayim, the angels. He's going to send angels to the places that he's going to destroy. Right? And I want to add another scripture to that, because this is something that we have to bear in mind. All right, there's a scripture, book of Hebrews, chapter 13, verses 2. It says, be not forgetful to entertain strangers, for thereby some have entertained angels unawarely. Okay? So we've seen that in the time of Sodom and Gomorrah, Yah sent angels as a precursor to the judgment, right? And that scripture in the book of Hebrews is also referring to that we should be wary about entertaining strangers, right? Or be not forgetful to entertain strangers, people that you don't know necessarily, because actually by you interacting with these strangers, you may end up being interacting with an angel. So look after the strangers, because you may actually entertain, you may be looking after an angel unawarely. And in the time of the signs of Yah's judgment, one has to be vigilant about who you're entertaining, because the signs of Yah's judgment, one of them is that he sends his angels to the place that he's about to destroy. Let's continue. We're now going to go, we're still dealing with Sodom and Gomorrah, right? We're now going to go into the book of Jubilees, chapter 16. Okay. Chapter 16, verses 6. Right, and this is the second witness about Sodom and Gomorrah, right? And it reads on this wise, it says, and in like manner, God will execute judgment on the places where they have done according to the uncleanliness of Sodomites, like unto the judgment of Sodom. Okay? So one of the signs of Yah's judgment, right, is sodomy. Is going to be prevalent. That's dealing with things like homosexuality. That's a sign of Yah's judgment, right? If these things are occurring in the places that you're dwelling, that is a sign that Yah is going to judge these places, because Sodom and Gomorrah was judged because of such acts, homosexuality, transgender, all of these sexually immoral, perversion, pedophilia, all these things. These are signs. Just because you or your neighbor are not doing it, doesn't matter. If it's occurring on the land that you're dwelling in, these are signs of God's judgment. What did we just read in the book of Jubilees? Because he's made it plain. It says, and in like manner, God will execute judgment on the places where they have done according to the uncleanliness of Sodomites, like unto the judgment of Sodom. So whatever was happening in Sodom and Gomorrah, if it's existing today in the places that you're dwelling, know of a surety that these are the signs of Yah's judgment, right? And know, like the days of Noah, so like coming of the Son of Man be, where Noah was even told to give them a time frame, a time limit. You see? So we're seeing the flood. The elect, Noah, is going to go and tell the people that destruction is coming. And he's also going to give you a time frame, right? As the prophets, and the elect are currently doing in this day and age now. But people don't want to listen, right? And then we have confusion, Tower of Babel. That's a sign of Yah's judgment. It's confusion. People don't know what is going on. All right. Now we're looking at Sodom and Gomorrah. Uncleanliness, right? Sexual immoral acts. Angels coming to the places of destruction, right? Appearing as men or strangers. These are the signs of Yah's judgment. All right. Let's continue. We're now going to go into the Lost Book of Eden. Okay. Right. Now, the Lost Book of Eden is a compilation of multiple books. So I've just called it the Lost Book of Eden for the sake of, you know, simplicity. But, and I think the book that I'm reading is out of the Testament of Levi, right? And these are actually individual books. We're coming out, I think, the Testament of Levi, right? Chapter 4, verses 13. Okay. And it reads on this way. It says, for as the heaven is purer in the Lord's sight than the earth, so also be ye, the lights of Israel, purer than all the Gentiles. But if ye be darkened through transgressions, what therefore will all the Gentiles do living in blindness? Yeah, ye shall bring a curse upon our race, because the light of the law which was given for to lighten every man, this ye desire to destroy by teaching commandments contrary to the ordinances of God. The offerings of the Lord ye shall rob, and from his portion shall ye steal choice portions, eating them contemptuously with harlots. And out of covetousness ye shall teach the commandments of the Lord. Wedding women shall ye pollute, and the virgins of Jerusalem shall ye defile. And with harlots and adulteresses shall ye be joined, and the daughters of the Gentiles shall ye take to wife, purifying them with unlawful purification. And your union shall be like unto Sodom and Gomorrah. It's starting to make some nice steps towards the wider picture. We see in this precept some signs. We see the signs, right? That the Father's elect, they're going to be teaching contrary to his instructions. Are we not seeing that? We're seeing a plethora of different camps that have no unison whatsoever. Yeah, they were brothers and sisters, which one of the greatest parts is that we learn to settle our differences in that form of fashion. But the confusion, the different doctrines, that's a prophecy right there. That's a sign that the different instructions that are being going out, contrary to Yah's laws, that is a sign that we're going to be enjoined unto Sodom and Gomorrah. What does it enjoined mean? That means that we're going to be in the same position as what happened to Sodom and Gomorrah. So this is a sign of the things that are going to happen before destruction, like Sodom and Gomorrah. And one of them was what? That would be teaching contrary to his law. What was another one that we just read? That we would be wedding wives from the Gentiles. Are we not seeing this? The children of Israel, you know, we are supposed to be marrying within our tribal units, but we've got ourselves flocking with all kinds of birds, you know. Anyone knows that pigeons, they only procreate with pigeons, right? Doves procreate with doves. But the children of Israel seems to procreate with whoever they please. But these are the signs. These are the signs that destruction is coming, because we are enjoining ourselves like unto Sodom and Gomorrah. You see? All right, we're going to now go into another very important topic. Well, it's the same topics, right? But I'm talking about storyline. We're now going to go into the book of Exodus, the scripture itself, or Shamawath in the Hebrew, right? The book of Exodus. We're going into the book of Exodus, chapter 7, okay? We're dealing with what are the signs of Yah's judgment, okay? We're in the book of Exodus, chapter 7, verses 1. And this is Moses and Aaron coming before Pharaoh, okay? It reads on this wise. It says, And the Lord said unto Moses, See, I have made thee a god to Pharaoh, and Aaron thy brother shall be thy prophet. Thou shalt speak all that I command thee, and Aaron thy brother shall speak unto Pharaoh, that he send the children of Israel out of his land. Okay? So right at the bat, one of the signs of Yah's judgment is that the Father has his people that are going to confer or consult with the powers that be to let his people go out of their captivity. And Are we not seeing this? Martin Luther King, was he not one of those individuals that was basically making a calling, an assembly, right? To let his people go, you know? And what happened to him? He got killed. These are the signs, the precursors to Yah's judgment, right? That's just one example. There's many other people that are sounding the trumpet, drawing certain presidents and politicians out, right? That they need to let our people go. What other signs could there be if such things do not occur? Let's continue. We're gonna go into the book of we're still in the book of Exodus. We're in chapter 10, right? No, we're in chapter 7, but we're gonna pick up in verse 10, right? We're dealing with what are the signs of Yah's judgment. We see that the flood, the elect, was sent out to let the people know that there was destruction coming if they would not turn within 120 years. We see Babel, the father, caused confusion amongst the people before he destroyed the tower, right? We see Sodom and Gomorrah. The father sent angels, right, to Sodom and Gomorrah before he destroyed the place, right? And now we're in the time, and another sign is, sexual immorality would occur. These are the signs that Yah is going to judge these places, right? And now we're going to see some of the physical signs that we could see on this earth that let us know that Yah's judgment is at hand. Okay, we're going to pick up in Exodus chapter 7, verses 10, and it reads on this wise. And Moses and Aaron went unto Pharaoh, and they did so as the Lord had commanded. And Aaron cast his rod before Pharaoh and before his servants, and it became a serpent. When Pharaoh also called the wise men and the sorcerers, now the magicians of Egypt, they also did in like manner with their enchantments. For they cast down every man his rod, and they became serpents. And Aaron's rod swallowed up their rod, and he hardens Pharaoh's heart. Oh, hold on 1 second. Yeah. He said, for they cast down every man his rod, and they became serpents, and Aaron's rod swallowed up their rods. Okay? So, another sign of Yah's judgment is that the elect, the Father's people, they're going to be producing signs and wonders that God is with them. And the magicians, or let's just say, let's say the magicians or the sorcerers of this world that are in bed with the nations that be, they are also going to try to replicate those signs and wonders. Why? Well, that only just to prove that the things that the children or the elect or the Father's people are doing is nothing out of reach of man in itself. See, as long as they can make everyone think that the things that are occurring on this earth has got nothing to do with God, right? And everything to do with man and his intellect. That's keeping the world in this state of confusion that God is not present and is not even involved in anything that is going on in this earth. That's why the magicians, as you see in that time, they had to replicate. That was one of the things to prove that the things of Yah was not of Yah. You see, as long as the magicians could do it, it could have been done with science. You see? So these are signs. These are some of the signs. And we're going to go through some of them more as we go through the book of Exodus, right? We're now going to go into same chapter. We're now in verse 19. Okay. And it reads on this wise. It says, And the Lord spake unto Moses, say unto Aaron, Take thy rod and stretch out thy hand upon the waters of Egypt, upon their streams, upon their rivers, and upon their pods, and upon all their pools of water, that they may become blood, and that they may be blood, and that they may be blood throughout all the land of Egypt, both in vessel of wood and in vessels of stone. And Moses and Aaron did so as the Lord commanded, and he lifted up the rod and smote the waters that were in the river, in the sight of Pharaoh, and in the sight of his servants, and all the waters that were in the river were turned to blood. And the fish that was in the river died, and the river stank, and the Egyptians could not drink of the water of the river. And there was blood throughout all the land of Egypt. And the magicians of Egypt did so with their enchantments. And Pharaoh's heart was hardened, neither did he hearken unto them, as the Lord had said. Okay, so another sign of Yah's judgment is that he is going to cause the waters to turn to blood, right? And if anyone has ever seen, you can search around the world. There has been situations where the rivers, especially in China and some other places, the waters have turned to blood. These are the signs of Yah's judgment. These are the signs around the earth. You're seeing these things happening on the earth. These are the signs of Yah's judgment. We've seen the elect are going to be teaching about destruction, right? There is going to be confusion on this earth, right? There's going to be sexual immorality on this earth. Angels are going to be appearing as strangers, right? In the places of destruction to give people forewarning. Then we are going to have, the elect looking like God's hand is on in their presence. But what the magicians going to do? They're going to try to replicate some of the things that the elect are able to do, which is going to try to nullify any reason that God is in the equation. We're going to see blood rivers occurring. And again, we read that the magicians, they replicated it. So it kept the nations at peace because they knew that they could do it with science. You see, that's what sorcery is. That you're dealing with science. You see, let's just call a spade a spade. That's really what was happening. They're dealing with science. Science is what we would class of Yah's divine law in how everything operates. By us studying or partaking in science, we are just basically studying God's laws of the universe. But we're supposed to go to Yah for the instructions of what we're supposed to do with our minds. But we've strayed off from doing things like that. We thought that let's just go straight to his instructions, his law. Let's not say the instructions of the scriptures. We're talking about the laws of the universe. Let's go and try to figure it out for ourselves, thinking that we even have enough time to even fathom how everything is put together. But we don't have time. As you can see that the signs that we're reading, these signs are prevalent on this earth, and people think that we have time to study science in the depths that we have done without consulting the Father and his will. You see, it's like trying to run a computer without the power plugged in. How do you expect it to work? If you're not plugged in with your creator, where do you think you're going to go? Let's continue. We're now going to go into the next sign of Yah's judgment. We're still in chapter 7. Oh no, we're in chapter 8. And we're going to pick it up in verse 5. Okay. And it reads on this wise. It says, And the Lord spake unto Moses, Say unto Aaron, Stretch forth thy hand with thy rod over the streams, over the rivers, and over the pods, and cause frogs to come up upon the land of Egypt. And Aaron stretched out his hand over the waters of Egypt, and the frogs came up and covered the land of Egypt. And the magicians did so with their enchantments, and brought up frogs upon the land of Egypt. Then Pharaoh called Moses and Aaron and said, Entreat the Lord that he may take away the frogs from me, from the people, and I will let thy people go, that they may do sacrifice unto the Lord. It's another sign. Now, this is in a continual unfolding what we are seeing, because you're seeing the rivers have now turned to blood and they're undrinkable. The fish have died in the sea or the rivers because they don't have legs to actually get out of the river, but frogs do. So we can see this is now a continual domino effect, right? Where the frogs have now decided to come out of the river because it is uninhabitable, right? These are signs. And what? The magicians tried to do the same, okay? To replicate, to show that Yah's hand is not in these signs. That's the main reason why this sorcery is occurring here. The magicians are just proving to Pharaoh that this is not God ordained. Anyone can do it, you see? Which is very close to what is currently happening on this stage. If anyone sees the fires that have occurred in America, anyone would think that these are God's calamities. But those who can read in between the lines, these are the very same magicians that we're seeing in the book of Exodus. They are just trying to show you that they can produce signs and wonders. Because if anyone's read in the book of Revelations, there are situations where there are going to be fires, trees that are going to be burned up. But that calamity is not yet. We are now experiencing the signs of Yah's judgment. Right? The signs of Yah's judgment. Yeah, these are precursors. They're getting this kind of, they're unfolding. Don't get me wrong, there's different kinds of judgment. There are certain people that are being judged in certain ways. But the real calamity is yet to really hit. These are the signs, and the signs do have minuscule judgments in them, because otherwise you wouldn't know if they're what they are. They are signs. The signs themselves are just a crack of what really is going to hit this earth. It's just a glimpse of what is really hitting this earth. And know that the magicians are going to constantly try to replicate these signs to prove that God's hand is not involved in it. But we're going to see something very shortly. We're now going to go to we're in chapter 8, we're in verse 16 now, right? We're just going to plod through some of the signs, because these signs, there's nothing new under the sun. We're going to see these happening. These things are going to start. And if you start seeing these things happening on the earth, know that we're drawing near to the real judgment, because there are signs, and the signs are not positive. Do you understand? There are things that are going to be, cause problems to the earth. But the real judgment is going to be something that you're not going to want to be anywhere near. The signs are there to give you forewarning. So if you're seeing these signs, you're supposed to get yourself prepared, like the 120 years that Noah gave the people of this world. Let's go to verse 16. It says, And the Lord said unto Moses, Say unto Aaron, Stretch out thy rod, and smite the dust of the land, that it may become lice throughout all the land of Egypt. And they did so. For Aaron stretched out his hands with his rod, and smote the dust of the earth, and it became lice in man and in beast. And all the dust of the land became lice throughout all the land of Egypt. And notice this part, it says, And the magicians did so with their enchantments to bring forth lice, that they could not. So there were lice upon man and upon beast. Right? So, this was another sign, right? That lice started to what? Now, if we were to see the order of things, we had the blood caused the frogs to come out. The frogs are now all out on this place. What would happen? The frogs generally dwell in the what? In the rivers. They're not toads. Toads live on land. Frogs, they need water, right? They'll dry up. So what do? They would have died. And what happens when they die? You're going to have maggots forming, especially the quantity of frogs that there would have been. That's all the frogs out of the rivers. They would have come out. That would have caused maggots to occur, right? And these maggots would have been all over the animals or on the people, right? Okay. And notice that the magicians, they couldn't actually replicate this scenario. So this is another sign that there's going to get to a stage that Yah's judgment is going to be so obvious to the world that it's not any person, no man-made person on this earth could produce the things that are occurring on this earth. And like I say to a lot of the times to some of the brothers that I speak to, is that, yeah, there's some people that lean onto their own understandings. They deal with certain religions, due to inheritance, they've stuck by it, right? But they don't want to deal with the truth. But when it comes to these signs, where it's almost a no-brainer that God is now judging this earth, that's when you're going to start seeing a lot of people making the right decisions, right? So we can see the topic we're dealing with is, what are the signs of Yah's judgment? We saw the flood. Noah warned the people, even gave us a time period, right? In Babel, there was confusion, right? Sodom and Gomorrah, there's sexual immorality, angels appearing in certain places, right? We're now seeing the signs of the judgment to Egypt, or let's just say the 10 plagues that hit Egypt. These are signs of Yah's judgment, right? Blood, rivers, frogs coming out of these places. Then, lice, or would say maggots, right? Consuming the animals and the people, right? It wasn't just the animals, it was also the people, right? They were, maggots, dwelling in wounds and things like this, right? We're going to go into verse 20. And it reads, it says, And the Lord said unto Moses, Rise up early in the morning, and stand before Pharaoh. Lo, he cometh forth to the water. And say unto him, Thus saith the Lord, Let my people go, that they may serve me. Else, if thou wilt not let my people go, behold, I will send swarms of flies upon thee, and upon thy servants, and upon thy people, and into thy houses. And the houses of the Egyptians shall be full of swarms of flies, and also the ground whereon they are. And I will sever in that day the land of Goshen, in which the people dwell, that no swarms of flies shall be there. To the end thou mayest know that I am the Lord in the midst of the earth. Okay? And I will put division between my people and thy people. Tomorrow shall this sign be. Notice it said sign, right? Awath, yeah, sign, right? Or ath in the Hebrew. And the Lord did so, and there came a grievous swarm of flies into the house of Pharaoh, and into his servants' houses, and into all the land of Egypt. The land was corrupted by reason of the swarm of flies. Okay? So we can see that the blood river, right? Frogs coming out, they die, they turn into maggots. What are maggots? Maggots, they were going to turn into what? Into flies, right? So that's what the next stage was. The flies now started coming up because the flies were being born from the maggots. They had already eaten, they had enough food to now start the transformation stage, right? Now they're turning into flies, right? These are the signs. And notice that the magicians, they stopped even trying to replicate it because it now got to a stage where Yah's signs were too much for the nation. It was too evident that God or Yahweh is the one that's bringing calamity to this earth, and the signs are now picking up. The severity is getting worse. You see. And what is another sign that we read, right, from that specific excerpt, is that he said, I will put a division between my people and thy people. Tomorrow shall this be a sign. So, as these signs are occurring on this earth, you're going to see that for the Father's elect, the Father's chosen people, the children of Israel, and those that are grafted in amongst them, they're not going to be touched by what is coming on this earth, because we've had our time. We've had our fair share of being disobedient and being chastised by it. And now we're walking in the way. Has anyone watched my video, How to Walk in the Way? You can watch that previous video. Now we know how to walk in the way. When the judgment occurs, we will be in the midst of it. But we will be untouched. As the Father showed in the time of Exodus, is that he was going to show that a division between his people and those people, the Egyptians. And we were dwelling in the same place, yet these flies were not touching any of the children of Israel. That's a sign that something godly ordained is occurring here. How is it that flies are flying around and they're only affecting a certain people? What is it that is causing this? These are the signs of Yah's judgment. Let's continue. We're now going to go into, we're in chapter 9, right? Still in Exodus chapter 9, because there's a lot of signs in there in the book of Exodus. Chapter 9, verses 3, right? And we're dealing with the fifth plague here. And it reads on this way, it says, Behold, the hand of the Lord is upon the cattle which is in the field, upon the horses, upon the donkeys, upon the camels, upon the oxen, upon the sheep. There shall be a grievous murrain, pestilence, right, or plague. And the Lord shall sever between the cattle of Israel and the cattle of Egypt, and there shall nothing die of all that is the children of Israel. And the Lord appointed a set time, saying, Tomorrow the Lord shall do this thing in the land. And the Lord did that thing on the morrow, and all the cattle of Egypt died, but of the cattle the children of Israel did not one. Okay? Another sign. This sign is emphasizing the distinction between those that belong to the Father and those that are going to experience the judgment to come. Is that he's going to make a division between his people and the wicked, dividing the wheat and the tares. It's already occurring, you see. And I'll read in the book of Revelations that he says, let them grow together. But the angels are going to what? He's going to bind up the tares and throw them in the what? In the fire, which is the lake of fire. Is a symbolism of that. So what does that mean? If you think about it, if he's going to bind up the tares, that means that he's going to leave the wheat where they're standing. The angels are going to leave the wheat where they're standing, but he's going to go and bind up the tares. So he's going to take the tares. Whatever is coming on this earth, he's going to destroy these tares. The wheat are going to stay where they're standing. They're going to be left unfamished, touched. They're going to be left to do what they're doing because they're in the way. Right? All right, so now one thing I didn't explain is that the cattle died. How did the cattle die? Because we have to connect this. So now we see that the blood occurred in the rivers. The frogs came out, they died. Maggots came out. Then the maggots turned to flies. What were the flies then doing? The flies were obviously tormenting the people, laying what? Eggs in different parts of people, cattle. As soon as you start at flies, there's too many flies, and they're laying eggs in certain areas. If they lay eggs in a wound of yours, that's going to cause, problems in your skin, all right? Or in the cattle skin. And that's what's going to cause the cattle to die. If there's too many flies, they're going to be laying eggs in certain places. These cattle are not getting food because all this calamity is occurring. It's plaguing the place, right? A cattle can only deal with so much flies, but if there's too many and they're going in different places of the livestock, they can easily lay eggs in certain parts of their body. All right, let's continue. So now we're going to go into this. Now connects to what I was talking about, verse 8. Okay, and it reads on this wise. It says, "And the Lord said unto Moses and unto Aaron, Take to you handfuls of ashes of the furnace, and let Moses sprinkle it towards the heaven in the sight of Pharaoh, and it shall become small dust in all the land of Egypt, and shall be a boil breaking forth with blains upon man, upon beast, throughout all the land of Egypt. And they took ashes of the furnace and stood before Pharaoh, and Moses sprinkled it up towards heaven, and it became a boil breaking forth with blains upon man and upon beast. And the magicians could not stand before Moses because of the boils, for the boil was upon the magicians and upon all the Egyptians." Okay, so this connects with the flies. The flies were causing problems to the what? To the cattle, and now the flies were causing problems to the people, right? Laying eggs, under people's skin and things like this. This can cause hives, right? These are the signs, and this is only occurring to those that were what? Outside the nation of the tribe of Israel. Okay, so this is what we should expect as the signs of Yah's judgment. Is that if you're in the way, right, following his precepts and his instructions, right, you shouldn't experience calamity, or that you shouldn't be a recipient to hit these signs, right? Let's continue. Probably you can hear a cat here. All right, let's go to the next one. We're now going to we're in verse 22. Verse 22. Always happens when the word comes out. Okay, now let's read chapter 9, verses 22, and it reads on this way. It says, "And the Lord said unto Moses, Stretch forth thy hand towards heaven, that there may be hail in all the land of Egypt, upon man and upon beast, and upon every herb of the field, throughout the land of Egypt. And Moses stretched forth his rod towards heaven, and the Lord sent thunder and hail, and the fire ran along upon the ground, and the Lord rained hail upon the land of Egypt. So there was hail and fire mingled with hail, very grievous, such as there was none like it in all the land of Egypt, since it had become a nation. And the hail smote throughout all the land of Egypt, all that was in the fields, both man and beast. And the hail smote even herb of the field, and brake every tree of the field. Only in the land of Goshen, where the children of Israel were, was there no hail." Okay, so another sign of Yah's judgment is that you're going to experience some severe hail, right? And again, there was a distinction that was made that the children of Israel would not experience this hail. And this hail was so great that it it came with fire. Any object that's flying from the sky that has a high velocity, and large surface area, is going to pick up speed. And when it picks up such speed, it's obviously going to generate a lot of heat. And this is what was going to actually end up causing a lot of their crops to be destroyed. You see? Let's continue. Ignore the cat. If you can hear the cat, there's a cat. Uh, all right, next calamity, or let's just say the next sign. We're nearly there with the Exodus. Um, all right, we're in chapter 10, verses 12. Chapter 10, verses 12. Uh, verses 12. And it reads on this wise. It says, And the Lord said unto Moses, Stretch out thine hand over the land of Egypt for the locusts, that they may come up the land of Egypt, and eat every herb of the land, even all that the hail have left. And Moses stretched forth his rod over the land of Egypt, and the Lord brought an east wind upon the land of all that day and all that night. And when it was morning, the east wind brought the locusts, and the locusts went up over all the land of Egypt, and rested in all the coast of Egypt. Very grievous were they before them. There were no such locusts as they neither after them shall be such. Okay, for they covered the face of the whole earth, so that the land was darkened, and they did eat every herb of the land, and all the fruit of the trees which the hail had left, and there remained not any green things in the trees or in the herbs of the field through all the land of Egypt. Okay, so another sign of Yah's judgment is locusts. Okay, and if anyone has ever seen the things that have occurred in places like Mecca and East Africa, locusts cause a lot of destruction around this earth. They destroy crops. They come and just wipe out crops in large quantities to the point that they almost black out the sun. You see? So these are some of the things that, if they are happening on this earth, know that these are the signs that Yah is going to judge this earth. And if we don't pay heed to these signs, we may end up finding ourselves caught up in a situation which, if we would have acted sooner, we may have been preserved a lot better. Let's continue. We're now going to go into we're going into we're going into we're in verse 21 of chapter 10 of the book of Exodus. Okay, and it reads on this wise. And the Lord said unto Moses, Stretch thine hand towards the heaven, that there may be darkness over the land of Egypt, even darkness which may be felt. And Moses stretched forth his hand towards the heaven, and there was a thick darkness in the land of Egypt for 3 days. They saw not one another, neither rose any form his place for 3 days, but all the children of Israel had light in their dwellings. Okay? Now, I don't know about you, but sometimes we get to these winter seasons where we get some darkness occurring. We literally, I know that there is less light, but we get to the stage where even when there is supposed to be light, it's fully clouded and it's cold as anything, right? These are the signs. These are the dark times. These are the times where the Father is showing you that we're coming to a period of time where we may end up having days in winter which we kind of already do, where you don't see absolutely any sunlight at all within a 24-hour period. You see, and we do. In some places, you don't see sun at all. Okay, these are the signs. The earth. There's some change that's occurring in the universal atmosphere, right? The sun with its solar flares, all these things that they talk about, the global warming and all stuff. These are not just scientific in the sense of uh, uh, beyond, these are just things that just occur. No, these are part of Yah's judgment. These are the signs He's pre-warning us that these things are occurring. He's letting you know that something is a coming, something is on its way, and you best get yourself prepared, right? You best be in the way, because children of Israel, this is not for you. This is for those that have raped and robbed this planet and turned it into a business where there is enough resources on this earth for everyone to live abundantly, but not the way that the earth has been set up. No, sir. All right, we're in the final plague here. We're in chapter 11, okay? Chapter 11, verses 1 to verse 8. And it reads on this wise. And it says, the Lord said unto Moses, yeah, I will bring one plague more upon Pharaoh, upon Egypt. Afterwards he will let you go hence. When he shall let you go, he shall surely thrust you out hence altogether. Speak now in the ears of the people. Let every man borrow of his neighbor, and every woman of her neighbor jewels, silver, and jewels of gold. And the Lord gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians. Moreover, the man Moses was very great in the land of Egypt, in the sight of Pharaoh's servants, in the sight of his people. And Moses said, thus saith the Lord, about midnight will I go out in the midst of Egypt, and all the firstborn in the land of Egypt shall die. For the firstborn of Pharaoh that sitteth upon the throne, even unto the firstborn of the maidservants that is behind the mill, and all the firstborn of beasts. And there shall be a great cry throughout all the land of Egypt, such as there was none like it, nor shall be like it any more. But against the children of Israel shall not a dog move his tongue, against man or beast, that ye may know how that the Lord doth put a difference between the Egyptians and Israel. And all these thy servants shall come down unto me, and bow down thyself unto me, saying, get thee out, and all the people that follow thee. And after that I will go out. And he went out from Pharaoh in great anger. Okay? So we can see some of the signs, as we've just read, right? Is that death is going to come upon the wicked. Yeah. Specific in this time is that it was the firstborn, right? But the children of Israel were going to will be left untouched. And favor was going to be upon the children of Israel. Are we not seeing the favor that's upon the children of Israel in this current day and age now? That they're knowing who they are, they're raising up, righteous households are being established, right? Favor is in our midst, right? And as this favor is being poured out in our midst, we're seeing the destruction, the same similar destruction as we're seeing to those that took part in our captivity. We're seeing a lot of deaths. COVID, right? A lot of things occurred since 2019. 2019 was the period of judgment. These are the precursors to the real judgment, because there is judgment. There's different levels of judgment. If you read in the book of Revelations, there is judgment. Don't get me wrong, but there are different levels, because the judgment that occurs from after the 400-year prophecy, that is minuscule to what's going to happen when the Hamashiach cracks that sky. When the trumpets start blowing and the vials get poured out, once we get to, you're going to see real judgment. You see? Right? So, one thing we've got to bear in mind is that the Father is coming to judge this earth, but it's not coming to judge his chosen people. You see? So that's why it's even more reason that you should be hooking yourself up with a righteous Israelite, not any Israelite. Not everyone is of Israel, but you should be hooking yourself up with one righteous Israelite who knows the way, right? And pay close attention to his movements, because his movements are going to give you guidance into what way to go. That's if you're not privy to consult the Father in your own self. If you're someone that is very inquisitive and likes to know the ways of Yah, then you know seek after His face yourself. But some people don't have the time of leisure to do so. So I would hook yourself up with someone that descends from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, so that they can give you guidance into what direction to go. Yeah. Let's continue. We're still in chapter 11. Okay. All right, we're still in chapter 11, and um, we are going to be going into. No, we're going to go in chapter 12, verses 29. Right? And it reads on this wise. And it came to pass, is dealing with the last plague, and it came to pass that at midnight the Lord smote all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh that sat on his throne unto the firstborn of the captive that was in the dungeon, and all the firstborn of cattle. And Pharaoh rose up in the night, he and all his servants and all the Egyptians, and there was a great cry in Egypt, for there was not a house where there was not one dead. And he called for Moses and Aaron by night, and said, Rise up and get forth from among thy people, both ye and the children of Israel, and go and serve the Lord as ye have said. Okay? So this is where the actual judgment has actually occurred, right? The death. And this is a sign in itself that when these calamities are occurring, or these signs of Yah's judgment are occurring on this earth, people are going to come back to the truth and understand what is causing these things to occur. That's why it talks about in the prophecy that he was going to judge the nations that we serve and will come out of great substance. Why are we going to come out of great substance? Is it not because they're going to come to a conclusion that the reason why they're experiencing these problems is because they've still got us in captivity? And the only way that they can show remorse, or I wouldn't say, yeah, the only way that they can show that they are sincerely, you know, wrong, or know that they've done wrong in what they've done, is to what? Is to bless the same people that they have oppressed. Because that would then, in their eyes, get the wrath of Yah off their back. You see? That's why we're going to leave with great substance. And we're going to see that's the same reason why we left with great substance in Egypt. Let's go to the next scripture. Okay? We're in verse 36 of the same chapter, chapter 12, verses 30. Oh no, I think it's 33. And it reads on this wise: Then the Egyptians were urgent upon the people that they might send them out of the land in haste. For they said, We be all dead men. And the people took their dough before it was leavened. Yeah, sorry, let me read that again. It says, And the Egyptians were urgent upon the people, so they were trying to push them, hurry them to get out. This is another sign. We're gonna get to a period where the things that occur in this, these signs that are building up to the Father's major judgment on this earth, it's going to cause the people that have been oppressing us to want us to exodus as soon as possible, right? Because they want to hold on to the dear life that they have, right? And it says they may send them out of the land in haste, for they said, We be all dead men, right? And the people took their dough before it was leavened, their kneading troughs being bound up in their clothes upon their shoulders. And the children of Israel did according to the word of Moses, and they borrowed of the Egyptians jewels. Are these not the great substance? Jewels of silver, jewels of gold, and raiment. And the Lord gave the people favor in their sight of the Egyptians, so that they lent unto them such things as they required, and they spoiled the Egyptians. So this is the same as we see in the book of Ecclesiastes. There's nothing new under the sun. So the same similar occurrence that happened in Exodus is going to be the same similar occurrence as the children of Israel leaving the four corners of this earth, coming into the land that was promised to them, right? Some of them will go straight into the land of Israel. Some of them will make a detour to Africa. Africa is a hub spot for us to return to because that's where we were taken from the west coast of Africa. So many people are going to have different ways that they're going to get back to the lands, right? But as we can see, is that we spoiled the Egyptians. So expect the same thing as a sign, right? Reparations, right? Doesn't necessarily have to be money. These can be these spoils can be come in the the guise of gifts, where all of a sudden the government are giving out new schemes that benefit us directly. You know, that's a way of giving back to the community. We expecting that the president's gonna just say on loud TV and just say, "Oh, we are gonna give these people this amount of money." No, they're already subliminally giving us spoils in some of these governmental schemes. Pay attention to some of the governmental schemes because there's some of these schemes that they're going on. Some of these apps where people are able to give free things. Olio, if anyone knows about that app, that's an app where people are able to give free things. You see, these are the avenues and where these people are going to be able to give back to those that are oppressed. There's nothing new under the sun. You see, let's now we're gonna go into the second Esdras. We're now out of the Exodus, so we can see the topic that we're dealing with was what? What are the signs of Yah's judgment? We see that the flood, Noah was given utterance to pre-warn the people. With also the time frame. Babel, there was confusion on the earth. Sodom and Gomorrah, there was sexual immorality on the earth. Are we not seeing that? All these things I'm mentioning now, they're happening now. Then we're seeing Egypt, blood rivers. We've seen that in China. Frogs coming out. I don't know too much about frogs coming out. These are the different kind of plagues. I haven't really been seeing the frogs and the lice and things like this, but I have seen, you know, hail that has hit Australia. Large signs of talents, right? These things have hit Australia, right? Locusts have hit Mecca and different parts of Africa, right? These are signs. 3 days of darkness, as winter occurs in different regions of the earth, we see that the winter periods they're almost 24-hour darkness. Okay, these are the signs. And in the death of the firstborn, we're seeing the nations that have oppressed us. A lot of the celebrities that a lot of us hold dear to ourselves, some of them have been short lived. A lot of these celebrities we've seen have died early. Some of them at the age of 50, 40, 60. Why? What is it has caused them to die or to be so short lived? You see, some of the things that these celebrities get themselves up to is to actually promote the further oppression of the children of Israel. But people don't read between the lines that if you're hooked yourself up with places like Hollywood, you're part of the problem. If you've hooked yourself up with the hip hop culture, you know, or the rap scene, mainstream, you're part of the problem. And God's going to cause your life to be short lived because you promoting all this destruction upon the younger generation with the movies and the rap drill videos, you know, these are plaguing the minds of our people and this is keeping them in bondage. You see? But know that you're going to face some of these signs that are occurring because it's the children of Israel that are the ones that were safe, but the Egyptians, they're the ones that are oppressing us, right? They were the ones that were experiencing these things. Like he said, he was going to make a sign, a division between thee and my people. Let's continue. So now, we are now, we're in Second Ezra's, right? Chapter 15. Okay, Second Ezra's chapter 15. We've now left Exodus, right? Some of the signs that we've seen on this earth. This is letting us know we're tiptoeing towards the Father's judgment that's going to hit this earth. Okay, and we are going to be in Second Ezra chapter 15. As I remember, yeah, and we're in verse what 3. Okay, and it reads on this wise. It says, "Fear not the imaginations against thee; let not the incredulity of them trouble thee that speak against thee. For all the unfaithful shall die in their unfaithfulness. Behold, saith the Lord, I will bring plagues upon the world, the sword, the famine, death, and destruction." Right? So the plagues, if we're seeing these things that are occurring in the time of Egypt and occurring now, as we just read in Second Ezra's, these are the signs of his destruction. These are the signs of the judgment that he's going to bring sword, famine, death, and destruction. And this is going to go against the unfaithful. What is it? What is unfaithful? Who are you having faith in? Because this is happening to those who are unfaithful. So they obviously don't have faith in something. Who is it that they're supposed to have faith in? Let's continue. We're now going to go into the book of Yasha as our second witness, okay, of the Exodus story, okay? The book of Yasha, okay, chapter 80, okay, Yasha, chapter 80, and we're dealing with the Exodus story. And it reads on this wise. It says, and at the end of the 2 years, the Lord sent again Moses to Pharaoh to bring forth the children of Israel and to send them out the land of Egypt. And Moses went and came to the house of Pharaoh, and he spoke to him with the words of the Lord, who had sent him. But Pharaoh would not hearken to the voice of the Lord. And God roused his might in Egypt upon Pharaoh and his subjects. And God smote Pharaoh and his people with very great and sore plagues. And the Lord sent the hand of Aaron and turned all the waters of Egypt into blood with all their streams and rivers. All right, we just read that, right? Second witness. And when an Egyptian came to drink and draw water, he looked into his pitcher, and behold, the water was turned into blood. And when he came to drink from his cup, the water in the cup became blood. And when a woman kneaded her dough and cooked her victuals, their appearance was turned to that of blood. And the Lord sent again and caused all the waters to bring forth frogs, and all the frogs came into the houses of Egypt, of the Egyptians. And when the Egyptians drank, their bellies were filled with frogs, and they danced in their bellies, as they danced when in the river. And all the drinking water, cooking water, turned to frogs. Also when they lay in their beds, their perspiration bred frogs. Notwithstanding all this, the anger of the Lord did not turn from them, and his hand was stretched out against all the Egyptians to smite them with every heavy plague. And he sent and smote their dust to lice, and the lice became in Egypt to the height of 2 cubits upon the earth. The lice were also very numerous in the flesh of man and beast, and all the inhabitants of Egypt. Also upon the king and queen the Lord sent the lice, and it grieved Egypt exceedingly on the account of the lice. Notwithstanding this, the anger of the Lord did not turn away, and his hand was still stretched out over Egypt. And the Lord sent all kinds of beasts of the field into Egypt, and they came and destroyed all Egypt, man and beast, and trees, and all things that were in Egypt. And the Lord sent fiery serpents, scorpions, mice, weasels, toads, together with other creeping in dust, flies, hornets, fleas, bugs, gnats, each swarm according to his kind. And all the reptiles, winged animals according to their kind, came to Egypt and grieved the Egyptians exceedingly. And the flies and the fleas came into the eyes and the ears of the Egyptians, and the hornet came upon them and drove them away, and they removed from it into their inner rooms, and it pursued them. And the Egyptians hid themselves on the account of the swarm of animals. They locked their doors after them, and God ordered Salanawath, which was in the sea, to come upon the earth. Right? Where are we? Sorry. Where are we? Yeah, so, and when the Egypt, verse 19 says, and when the Egyptians hid themselves on account of the swarm of animals, they locked their doors after them. And God ordered the Salah Nawath, which was in the sea, to come up and go into Egypt. This is an interesting one, right? Because we need to look into the Salah Nawath. What is that? Right? Because we're going to read the description. It says, and she had long arms, 10 cubits in length, of the cubit of a man. And she went upon the roofs and undercovered the raftering and the flooring, and cut them, and stretched forth her arm into the house, and removed the lock and the bolt, and opened the houses of Egypt. Afterwards came the swarm of animals into the houses of Egypt, and the swarm of animals destroyed the Egyptians, and it grieved them exceedingly. Notwithstanding, the anger of the Lord did not turn away from the Egyptians, and his hand was yet stretched forth against him. And God sent the pestilence, and the pestilence pervaded Egypt in the horses, and the donkeys, and the camels, in the herds of oxen, and the sheep, and in man. And when the Egyptians rose up early in the morning to take their cattle to pasture, they found all their cattle dead. And they remained of the cattle of the Egyptians only 1 in 10, and of the cattle belonged to Israel in Goshen not one died. And God sent a burning inflammation in the flesh of the Egyptians, which burst their skins, and it became a severe itch in all the Egyptians from the soles of their feet to the crowns of their heads. And many boils were in their flesh, that the flesh wasted away until they became rotten and putrid. Notwithstanding, this anger of the Lord did not turn away, and his hand was still stretched out over all of Egypt. And the Lord sent a very heavy hail, which smote their vines, and broke their fruit trees, and dried them up, that they fell upon them. Also every green herb became dry and perished from a mingling fire, descended amidst the hail. Therefore the hail and the fire consumed all things. Also men and beasts were found abroad, perished of the flames of fire and of the hail, and all the young lions were exhausted. And the Lord sent and brought numerous locusts into Egypt, the Chazal, the Salom, the Chagol, and the Chagol, locusts of each kind, which devoured all that the hail left remaining. Then the Egyptians rejoiced at the locusts, although they consumed the produce of the field, and they caught them in abundance, and salted them for food. And the Lord turned a mighty wind of the sea, which took away all the locusts, even those that were salted, and thrust them into the Red Sea. Not one locust remained within the boundaries of Egypt. And God sent darkness upon Egypt, that the whole of the land of Egypt and Patros became dark for 3 days, so that a man could not see his hand when he lifted it to his mouth. At that time died many of the people of Israel who rebelled against the Lord, who had not hearkened to Moses and Aaron, and believed not in them that God had sent them, and who had said, we will not go forth from Egypt, lest we perish with hunger in a desolate wilderness, and who would not hearken to the voice of Moses. And the Lord plagued them in the 3 days of darkness, and the Israelites buried them in those days with the Egyptians, knowing of them or rejoicing over them. And the darkness was very great in Egypt for 3 days, and any person who was standing when the darkness came remained standing in his place, and he that was sitting remained sitting, and he that was lying continued lying in the same state, and he that was walking remained sitting upon the ground in the same spot. And this thing happened to all the Egyptians until the darkness had passed away. And all the days of darkness passed away, and the Lord sent Moses and Aaron to the children of Israel, saying, celebrate your feast and make your Passover, for behold, I come in the midst of the night among all the Egyptians, and I will smite all their firstborn, from the firstborn of a man to the firstborn of the beast. And when I see your Passover, I will pass over you. And the children of Israel did according to the Lord had commanded Moses and Aaron, and thus they did in that night. And it came to pass in the middle of the night that the Lord went forth in the midst of Egypt, and smote all the firstborn of the Egyptians, from the firstborn of the man to the firstborn of the beast. And Pharaoh rose up in the night, he and all his servants, all the Egyptians. There was a great cry throughout Egypt in the night, that there was not a house in which there was not a corpse. Also the likeness of the firstborn of Egypt, which were carved in the walls at their houses, were destroyed and fell to the ground. Even the bones of their firstborn who had died before this, whom they had buried in their houses, were raked up by the dogs of Egypt on the night and dragged before the Egyptians and cast before them. And all the Egyptians saw this evil which had suddenly come upon them, and all the Egyptians cried out with a loud voice. And all the families of Egypt wept upon that night, each man for his own son, and each man for his daughter, being the firstborn. And the tumult of Egypt was heard at a distance of that night. And Bathia, the daughter of Pharaoh, went forth with the king on that night to seek Moses and Aaron in the houses. And they found them in their houses, eating and drinking and rejoicing with all Israel. And Bathia said unto Moses, Is this the reward for the good which we have done to thee, who have reared thee and stretched thee out, and thou hast brought this evil upon me and my father's house? And Moses said to her, Surely 10 plagues did the Lord bring upon Egypt. Did any evil accrue to thee from any of them? Did one of them affect thee? And she said, No. And Moses said to her, Although thou art the firstborn to thy mother, thou shalt not die, and no evil shall reach thee in the midst of Egypt. Okay? I'm going to skip down. It says, And Pharaoh ordered the children of Israel to be sent away, and all the Egyptians strengthened themselves to send them. For they said, We are all perishing. And all the Egyptians sent the Israelites forth with great riches. Is this not the great substance that was told to Abraham? Right? Sheep and oxen and precious things, according to the oath of the Lord between him and our father Abraham. Okay? So we can see here, right? This is a witness, second witness of the occurrence, right? As we read in the scriptures, where there are 2 or more witnesses, all matters may be confirmed. So we can see that in Book of Yasha has testified that the events that occurred in Egypt, what we read in the book of Genesis, that's the second witness. And we can see some interesting things. There was a specific creature that was not mentioned in the book of Genesis called the Salah. Let me not butcher it. There was a creature, and it was called the Sulanoath, right? And it had long arms. It came out of the sea, and it went and uncovered the roofs of the Egyptians. It seems like a very great sized beast. There is also another beast that is known to be in the sea, right? Let's see if we can get that beast. Is this the same beast that is talking about in the book of Yasha? In Psalms 104:26, it says, There goes the ships. There is that Leviathan who thou hast made to play therein. In the book of Isaiah 21:27 and 1, it talks about a prophecy in the future. It says, In that day the Lord with his sword and great and strong sword shall punish Leviathan, the piercing serpent, even Leviathan, that crooked serpent, and he shall slay the dragon that is in the sea. Okay? But this may be that same beast that came out of the sea and caused calamity amongst the Egyptians. I'll leave you with that thought, because that prophecy that we're talking about in Isaiah, that's a prophecy that the Leviathan is still actually on this earth, still in the sea. There's a lot of evidence to show that there's some videos where it talks about how the Arctic, there was a great shift in the glaciers, very great shift in the glaciers, to the point that it looked unnatural, or it didn't look like a regular occurrence, an occurrence that happens yearly. This looked abnormal, to the point that we were seeing shapes and figures underneath this ice, as if there was some body, some thing that was existing under the ice. Roughly about 10 years ago, some occurrence occurred under the glaciers in the Arctic where it looked like something had awoken. Go and do your own due diligence. Go and look and study to show thyself approved, right? These scriptures, they must come to pass, my friends. Let's continue. We're now going to go into the book of Jubilees, right? We're getting a third witness, right? Where there are two or more witnesses, all matters be confirmed. Be confirmed, you know, we confirmed Babel, Gomorrah with two witnesses. Now we're going to go into the book of Jubilees, right? To confirm about the Exodus, okay? And we are going to be in chapter, if I can read the Roman numerals, we should be in chapter 48. 48. Is it in the book of Jubilees? 48. Yeah, we should be in 48. And we're in verse 5. It reads in this wise. It says, "And the Lord executed a great vengeance on them for Israel's sake, and smote them through the plagues of blood and frogs, lice and dogflies, and malignant boils breaking forth in blains, and their cattle by death, and by hailstones. Thereby he destroyed everything that grew from them, and by locusts which devoured the residue which had been left by the hail, and by darkness, and by the death of the firstborn of men and animals, and all their idols the Lord took vengeance and burned them with fire." So these are the signs that Yah is about to judge this earth. These things are going to occur. And notice towards the end of the scripture that it was dealing the fact that it was their idols that he was upset with, that they were worshipping. And he destroyed those idols. We have idols that are erected all over this planet. You know, an idol is a stick, a brick, Mr. Potato Head. You know, things that people create, graven image, and they bow down and worship. These are idols. If we have these things erected in our lands and we're paying homage to, people are flocking to them, bowing down to them, walking around them in circles, that is a form of worship. You are now bowing down, you're worshipping an idol. It says you're not creating anything that's heavenly above or earthly beneath or anything that's in the sea. In the book of Leviticus, it also talks about you should not erect a pillar in your land and bow down to it. That's in chapter 26, verses 1 of Leviticus. We're nearly there. Okay. So we now dealt with the signs of Yah's judgment. People are going to be forewarning you, giving you a period of time till the actual judgment occurs. There's going to be confusion on the earth. Okay. Sexual immorality is going to increase. There's going to be glimpses of angels or people appearing to be as of angels, right? There are going to be physical signs, blood, water, right? Plagues, right? Death, hail, large hail, boils, right? Locusts destroying crops, large quantities of days of darkness, right? And now we're going to see another situation, a sign. We're going to go into the book of Numbers, chapter 14. Okay. Book of Numbers, chapter 14. Okay, and we're going to pick up in verse 26. Right, and it reads on this wise. "And the Lord spoke unto Moses and Aaron, saying, How long shall I bear with this evil congregation which murmur against me? I have heard the murmurings of the children of Israel which they murmur against me. Say unto them, As truly as I live, saith the Lord, as ye have spoken in mine ear, so will I do to you. Your carcass shall fall in the wilderness, and all that were numbered of you, according to your whole number, from 20 years old and upwards, which have murmured against me. Doubtless you have come into the land concerning which I swear to make you dwell therein, save Caleb the son of Jephunneh and Joshua the son of Nun. But your little ones which ye said shall be a prey. Them will I bring in, and they shall know the land which ye have despised. But as for you, your carcasses shall fall in the wilderness, and your children shall wander in the wilderness for 40 years, and bear your whoredoms until your carcasses be wasted in the wilderness. After the number of the days in which ye search the land, 40 days, each day for a year, shall ye bear your iniquities. Even 40 years ye shall know my breach of promise. So we can see that the children of this one specifically directed to the children of Israel, where the lack of belief, faith, right? As it says in the scriptures, it's impossible to please the Father without faith. So the children of Israel, those that are not in the way, that don't believe in the Mashiach, because if you're in the way, you would believe, you would follow him, because you believe in him, right? So you would do as he did. That's a sign of belief, right? Those who don't believe in Hamashiach, you're going to be wandering in the wilderness, right? That is going to be a sign. Confusion. You're going to be going in circles. You're going to be keep going to different doctrines, different books, and you're going to keep trying to lean onto your own understandings. And the Father is going to just keep you in a circle. Your life is going to be like a revolving door, where you're going to keep feeling like you've come back to the same spot every 5 years or so. And that's a sign to you that the Father is about to judge this earth. Is because he's taking you back to a reprobate mind, where you're just like a revolving door. You don't want to deal with the truth. You want to lean onto your own understanding, and you're just every 5 to 10 years, you keep coming back to the same spot. You keep moving, and then you get a new job, and you do this, right? Then you end up losing your flat. You move, you get another job, and you move this, and you keep doing this. Nothing is. You have no foundation at all in your life. You're constantly just like a perpetual revolving door. And this is a sign, you see, if your life currently right now is like a conveyor belt, you need to think to yourself, what is it that you need to change? Because these are the signs of Yah's judgment. Yah's coming to judge this earth, and those that keep feeling like they're going back to square one every year, he's purposely making you wander in the wilderness to get you to understand your iniquities. Let's continue. We're nearly there. Okay, we're now going to go into the book of Zechariah, chapter 14, right, verses 6. Right, and it reads in this wise. Zechariah chapter 14, verses 6, and it reads, and it says, And it shall come to pass in that day that the light shall not be clear nor dark, but it shall be one day which shall be known to the Lord, not day nor night. But it shall come to pass, that at evening time, it shall be light, and it shall be in that day that living waters shall go out from Jerusalem, half of them towards the former sea, and half of them towards the hinder sea. In the summer and in the winter shall it be. That is a sign, right? Of Yahweh's judgment. It's telling us these things are going to occur, right? One thing you need to know where Jerusalem is, because it's not the Jerusalem that these people are talking about. but we'll leave that for another day. And the Lord shall be a king over all the earth in that day. Shall there be one Lord, and his name one. All the land shall be turned as a plain from Geba to Rimmon, south of Jerusalem, and it shall be lifted up and inhabited in her place from Benjamin's gate unto the place of the first gate, unto the corner gate, from the tower of Hananiel unto the king's winepress. And the men shall dwell in it, and there shall be no more utter destruction, but Jerusalem shall be safely inhabited. And this shall be the plague wherewith the Lord will smite all the people that have fought against Jerusalem. Their flesh shall consume away while they stand upon their feet, and their eyes shall consume away in their holes, and their tongue shall consume away in their mouth. What is it that would cause such a thing to occur? And it shall come to pass in that day that a great tumult from the Lord shall be among them, and they shall lay hold every one on his hand of his neighbor, and his hand shall rise up against the hand of his neighbor. And Judah or Jehoiada also shall fight at Jerusalem, and the wealth of all the heathen round about shall be gathered together, gold and silver, and apparel in great abundance. And so shall be the plague of the horse, of the mule, of the camel, and of the donkey, and of all the beasts that shall be in these tents, as this plague. And it shall come to pass that every one that is left of all the nations which came against Jerusalem shall even go up from year to year to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, to keep the what? To keep the Feast of the Tabernacles. Yeah. Just to interject here is that this is just showing you that the law, because you're not going to find the Feast of Tabernacles in the New Testament. This is in the Old Testament. What a lot of people say is done away with. This is the same scripture that the nations are going to have to abide to. They're going to have to go and partake in the Feast of Tabernacles, which they're going to have to come and dwell in tents. Right? And it says, and it shall be that whosoever will not come up of all the families of the earth, look at this, unto Jerusalem to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, even upon them shall be no rain. Right? So they're not even going to be able to have crops. Because if you have no rain, the crops are not going to grow. And if the family of Egypt do not go up and come not, that have no rain, there shall be the plague, wherefore the Lord will smite the heathen that have come not up to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. This shall be the punishment of Egypt, and the punishment of all the nations that come not up to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. So this is another sign of Yah's judgment. Okay? That there's going to be war and destruction. It talks about that people are going to be destroyed, and that the plague is going to destroy the, let me read it again. It says that, and this shall be a plague wherewith the Lord shall smite all the people that have fought against Jerusalem, and their flesh shall consume away while they stand. What currently do we of the nations got right now? They're all trying to race to get hold of, to keep themselves in a position of power. All the major powers that be, they all try to get this thing to keep them at bay. North Korea is one of the ones that they almost starved their whole nation just to ensure that they could get their hands on this particular plague that can cause someone's flesh to consume while they're standing on their feet, and their eyes to consume in their holes in their tongue before they touch the ground. This is war and destruction. Do we see war and destruction? These are signs. Right? Are we not seeing these things that are occurring on this earth? We also saw that, we just read that what? And it shall come to pass in that day that a great tumult from the Lord shall be among them, and they shall lay hold every one on the hand of his neighbor, and his hand shall rise up against the hand of his neighbor. That means that these nations are going to be warring against each other. Is this not confusion? We are seeing the signs on this earth, but people are so preoccupied about their daily affairs, that they don't understand that Ashatan has basically kept you so busy with orchestrating his beast system that you don't even have the time to focus on the reality of things. We need to take a step back, meditate once in a while, and start trying to process some of the things that you're seeing on this earth, because these are the signs of Yah's judgment. And if you're not pre-prepared, notice I didn't say prepared, I said pre-prepared. You're prepared before even being prepared. You may find yourself in a position that you wish you wouldn't be, or even wish your enemy to be in. We're nearly finishing up, okay? This is one of the longer studies that I've done. We're now going to go into the book of Matthew, right? We're dealing with what are the signs of Yah's judgment, okay? And we're in Matthew chapter 24, okay? Matthew chapter 24. And what verse? We're in 29. Chapter 24 and 29. I'm going to read out the Peshitta because it reads a lot better. 24 and 20, it says, "But immediately after the suffering of those days, the sun will be darkened." That's a sign of Yah's judgment. And the moon will not show its light. That's another sign of Yah's judgment. Did not an eclipse go across America before all of these things that have started to hit America as of recent? And the stars will fall from the heavens, and the power of the heavens will be disturbed, and the sign of the Son of Man in the heaven will appear. And then all the families of the earth will mourn, and they will see the Son of Man who comes on the clouds of heaven with miracles and many praises. And he will send his angels with great trumpets, and they will gather his own elect from the four winds, from the ends of the earth. These are the signs, you see. Remember I told you that the Father's going to judge the nations that we serve? Yeah, he is going to judge the nations we serve. But the real major judgments, and they don't occur until the trumpets start being blown. That's the real judgment. These are the things that are occurring before the Mashiach comes. These are the signs of his judgment. He's just giving you a taster. If you think that, if you're worried about these little things that are occurring, boy, oh boy, you see, because the sign of the sun, what, being darkened, and the moon not giving its light, these eclipses, these are the signs that the Father gives you to pre-warn the events that are going to come in the near future. Okay? And there was also the stars that will fall from the heavens. That means that we would not be able to see those stars anymore. They would just be, yeah. I won't add anything to it. It's plain upon tables, isn't it? Last scripture. Some heavy scriptures. So these are the signs we're dealing with. And now we're going to go into the book of Revelations, which is going to bring it in closer to what we should be experiencing today. Okay? We're going to go into the book of Revelations, chapter 8. Okay? We're dealing with the trumpets. Notice that we read that, and in verse 31, he will send his angels with a great trumpets, and they will gather his elect from the four winds of the ends of the earth. So that's going to be a sign that when the trumpets start being blown, we should start seeing the children of Israel coming out the four corners of the earth and being gathered to the place that was promised to them. Okay? And we're going to see what are the trumpets. What happens when these trumpets are being blown? Okay? Let's read. And it reads, for chapter 8, verses 6, it says, "And the 7 angels who had the 7 trumpets prepared themselves." Is this not what we just read from Matthew, that the trumpets were going to go and sound their trumpets? These are the same trumpets that when Hamashiach comes, they're going to start blowing the trumpets. These are the signs of the judgment, right? And then we're going to see the actual judgment, which are the vials. We're going to parallel this, right? We're going to read it one after the other. It says, "And the 7 angels who had the 7 trumpets prepared themselves to sound. And the first sounded, and there was hail and fire mixed with water, and they were cast upon the earth, and the third of the earth was burned, and a third of the trees were burned, and all the grass and the earth were burned. Okay? Now let's go to the vial, right? That's the trumpet, that's the sign. Okay, so what is the vial? Right, we're gonna go to the vial. So what is the first judgment after the sign? Okay? And it reads, and I heard a great voice from the temple saying, the seven angels go and pour out the seven vessels of the passion of God on the earth. This is the judgment. We've been leading up to the signs. All of these things that we've seen, these are the signs of Yah's judgment. Here is where we actually are experiencing the judgment that is coming on the earth. Right? It's on a different wavelength to the signs. The signs are precursors. Everything that's coming up to this stage has just been signs. Yeah, they could have been problematic, but they're still signs. They're warnings. So it's a period of time where you can still get yourself right. But when what we're about to read now, starts hitting the earth, you're not going to have a chance to get yourself right. Because it's going to be hellfire on this earth. Okay? And we just read that, what? The first sign, the trumpet, it says, and the seven angels who had the seven trumpets prepared themselves to sound. And they first sounded, and there was hail and fire mixed with water, and it was cast upon the earth. And a third of the earth was burned, and a third of the trees was burned, and the grass of the earth was burned. That's a sign. Now here's the judgment. It says, and I heard a great voice from the temple that said to the seven angels, go and pour out your seven vessels of the passion of God on the earth. And the first went and poured his vessel upon the earth, and there were severe and painful abscesses over the people who had the mark of the beast upon them, over those who worshipped its image. Okay? These are signs. These are the judgments. Right? The sign is the trumpet. The judgment is those who had the mark of the beast. They're going to now experience these abscesses on their body. Let's continue. There's 7 of these, right? Let's go to the second trumpet. Okay, and it says, and the second sounded, and there was a great burning mountain falling into the sea, and a third of the sea became blood. Was that not similar to what we read in the book of Exodus? Is there nothing new under the sun? These are the things that are going to occur in the latter days. And it says, and a third of all the creatures that were in the sea that had breath died, and a third of the ships was destroyed. That was the second trumpet. Second sign. Let's see what the judgment is. And the second angel poured his vessel out into the sea, and the sea became as dead, and every living animal in the sea died. Right? Notice these are parallel. These perfectly parallel. Right? This is in chapter 16. Okay? Let's continue. Now we're going to go to the third trumpet, which is again is a sign. It says, and the third sounded, and this is chapter 8, verses 10. It says, and the third sounded, and a great burning star fell from the sky like a blaze, and it fell on the third of the rivers, upon the springs of water. And the name of the star is called Absinthian, sorry. I think in another, I think this is in the Aramaic. In the Greek, they call it Abaddon, right? But this is Aramaic. It says Absinthian. And a third of the water became like absinthe, which is quite interesting because absinthe, or anyone talks about absinthe, that's like an alcoholic beverage, which is vodka. It's like poison, right? Absinthe. And a multitude of the people died because the waters were made toxic. So that was the third sign, the third trumpet. Let's see what the judgment is, the third judgment. Okay? And it says, and the third angel poured his vessel into the rivers and into the springs of water, and they became blood. And I heard the angel of the water saying, you are righteous, who are and have been. You are holy, who have decreed these things, because they have shed the blood of the prophets and of the holy ones, and you have given them blood to drink. They deserve it. And I heard the altar saying, yes, Lord, Yahweh, God Almighty, true and righteous are your judgments. Right? And the fourth angel poured his vessel over the sun, and it was given him to scorch people with fire. Oh, no, sorry. I've just gone ahead of myself. That was the fourth. We're going to leave that one. we now need to go to the fourth trumpet, which is the sign, right? Remember, because he gives us the sign. We're dealing with the topic. What are the signs before his judgment? He's gonna warn us. Remember, in the times of Noah, he gave us a warning before the flood. The Father is not going to judge himself without giving us a warning. These are signs, and we're now also now reading the vials, which are actually the judgments, which are a lot more severe in comparison to the signs. Let's see what the fourth sound of the trumpet is. And the fourth sounded a third, and a third of the sun was devoured, and a third of the moon, and a third of the stars, and a third of them became dark, and a third of the day did not appear, and a night likewise. And I heard an eagle flying in the sky, which said, Woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth, from the sound of the trumpets of the three angels who are going to sound. Okay? Right? Now let's see the judgment. As we were reading, we started reading. This is chapter 16, verses 8. We were in the book of Revelations, and it reads, it says, And the fourth angel poured his vessel over the sun, and it was given him to scorch people with fire. And the children of men were scorched with great heat, and they blasphemed the name of God, who has authority over these plagues, and they did not repent to him to give him glory. Okay? That was the judgment, the fourth judgment. Let's go to the fifth sign, or the fifth trumpet. Right? And the fifth sounded, and I saw a star that fell from the sky to the earth, and the key of the pits of the abyss was given to it. And smoke came up from the pit like the smoke of a great furnace, which was heated, and the sun and the air were darkened by the smoke of the pit. And from the smoke locusts went out of the earth, and power was given to them, which the scorpions of the earth have. And it was told them to not harm the grass of the earth, neither any greenery, nor the trees, but only the people who do not have the seal of God on their foreheads. And it was given to them not to kill them, but that they would suffer pain for 5 months. And their torment was like the torment of a scorpion that when it attacks a man. And in those days, people will seek death and will not find it, and they will long to die, and death will flee from them. And the form of the locust was like the form of horses prepared for battle, and upon their heads as crowns of the likeness of gold, and their faces were like the faces of men, and they had hair like hair of women. They had hair and they had hair like the hair of women, and their teeth were like the nose of lions, and they had breastplates like breastplates of iron, and the sound of their wings was like the sound of the chariots of many horses running to battle. And they had tails like scorpions, and a sting in their tails, and their authority is to hurt people for 5 months. And there is a king over them, and the angel of the abyss, whose name in the Hebrew is Awadu, and in the Aramaic his name is Shara. One woe is behold, again 2 woes are coming. After these things, okay, that was the 5th trumpet, which is a sign. It's a pre-warning to get yourself. Even there's been signs before these trumpets. We'll be getting signs. We've already been seeing the signs, right? Some of the glimpses from New Testament. These are the signs that the Father has put there. Everything's there for a reason, so that we can get ourselves ready, right? These are the major signs that we're dealing with, the trumpets. And now let's see what the judgment is, right? The 5th judgment. Okay? And it says, And the 5th angel poured his vessel over the throne of the beast. I wonder where the throne of the beast is. Did we not talk about the bottomless pit? Right? Let's go back to it. Because these are parallel. The 7th trumpet, so the 5th trumpet, right? If we read it, it says, And it sounded, the 5th sounded, and the saw a star fell from the sky, and he had a key to the pit of the abyss. What is the pit of the abyss? I'm going to give you a little gem here, right? And this is only through the Spirit, nothing of my own doing. The same place that they are smashing particles together, and they've been doing rituals on a regular occurrence, on yearly events, where they're smashing particles together, saying that they're trying to discover new things in the universe or understand how the Big Bang. That, what we class as the Hadron Collider, that is the bottomless pit. And what does that mean? Where is that located? Isn't that in Switzerland? Isn't it Geneva, where this Hadron Collider is? Isn't that the place where the kingdom of Esau is currently dwelling? The seven heads, the beast, the seven nations that have an eagle as their logo or their emblem is dwelling in that Europa's. And did we not just read the bottomless or the pit of the abyss going into the judgments? They're given even more clarity. It says the fifth angel poured his vessel over the throne of the beast. So where the pit of the abyss is actually where the throne of the beast is. That's the seat of Hashatan. So we now know who and where and how things are going to be going about. Where is this all coming from? Who has been responsible for it? You see, it's telling us there in the scriptures. The seven-headed beast with the 10 crowns that sit upon the heads. The seven-headed beast is dealing with the seven nations that sit where the bottomless pit is, the pit of abyss. And that's where the Hadron Collider is. Geneva. If you find that, that's one of the places where they've actually already got the mark of the beast currently at hand. They've got businesses that they have taken the mark, and they're able to go and open doors and cars and things like this. You see, they're doing it. The people are currently giving people the chip under the skin, and they're able to pay in vending machines and open their car and open certain doors in the company building. That is the seat of Hashatan. This is the bottomless pit that the key has been given to this angel to open. And as we read in the judgment, just for more clarity, it says, the fifth angel poured his vessel out over the throne of the beast, and its kingdom became darkness. And they were gnawing their tongues from the pain, and the blasphemy the name of God of heaven due to their pains and due to their sores, and they did not repent of their works. All praises be to the Most High Yah, because this, my friends, is what we class as precepting. Okay? Two more signs and two more judgments. We're going to go into the book. We're still in Revelation chapter 9. We should be on the 6th trumpet. Okay? And it reads on this wise, chapter 9, verses 13. It says, and these things the sixth angel sounded, and I heard one voice from the four horns of the altar of God, which is before God, which said to the sixth angel that had the trumpet, loose the four angels imprisoned at the great river Euphrates. And those four angels were released, who were prepared for an hour and for a day and for a month and for a year to kill a third of the children of men. And the number of the army of the horsemen was 10,000. And I heard their number. And I heard their number. And in this way I saw the horses in a vision, and those sitting upon them had breastplates of fire, and chalcedony, brimstone, and the heads of the horses were like the heads of lions, and the fire and brimstone and smoke proceeded from their mouths. And by these 3 scourges of a third of the children of men were killed, by the fire, by the brimstone, and by the smoke that proceeded from their mouths, because of the power of the horses was in their mouths, and also in their tails. And the rest of the children of men who were not killed by the scourges did not turn from the work of their hands to not worship devils and idols of gold, of silver, and of brass, and of wood, and of stone, which do not see, neither hear, nor are able to walk. And they did not turn from their murders, or from their witchcraft, of their fornication. Okay? Now that was the seventh trumpet. Oh, no, that was the sixth trumpet, wasn't it? Okay? So that's the sixth sign. Let's see the judgment, the sixth vial, right? Which is going to be the sixth judgment. Okay? And it reads, and it says, and the sixth angel poured out his vessel over the great river Euphrates. You see how it's paralleling? The sign was the trumpet of the river Euphrates. Now we're seeing the judgment. And it says, and its waters dried up, that the way of the kings from the east may be prepared. I wonder who is coming from the east. Who's got mighty men? Who's got many men? Who is a large nation that is who is trying to be, the new world superpower? Okay? And I saw from the mouth of the dragon and from the notice it says from the dragon, who has many dragons as idols in their nation? Let's continue. And I saw the mouth of the dragon from the mouth of the beast and from the mouth of the false prophet. This is the period of time when the Antichrist is going to be on this earth. From the mouth of the false prophet, three foul spirits like frogs, for they are the spirits of demons who perform signs, which go into the kings of the which go into the kings of the habitable earth, to gather them to war of the great day of God Almighty. Behold, I come like a thief. Blessed is he who watches and keeps his garments, lest he walk naked and they see his shame. And he shall gather them to the place called in the Hebrew Megiddo. Right? Armageddon. Okay? That was the seventh sign, the trumpet, and the seventh vial. No, that was the sixth trumpet and the sixth vial. So that was the sign, blowing the trumpet, the warning, and then the vial, the judgment. Okay. Now we're going to see the last one. It's the seventh. Okay. Right. Let's have a look. We're now on the seventh trumpet, which is the sign. Okay, and it reads on this wise. It says, and the seventh angel sounded, and there was great voices in heaven that said, the kingdom of the world has become our God's and his Messiah's, and he shall reign to the eternity of eternities. And the 24 elders who sit before God on their thrones fell on their faces and worshipped God, saying, we thank you, Lord Yahweh, God Almighty, who is and has been, for you have taken your great power and you have reigned. And the nations were angry, and your anger has come, and the time of the dead to be judged. You see, the judgment. And you shall give reward to your servants, the prophets, and to the holy ones, and to those who reverence your name, to the small with the great, and you shall destroy those who have corrupted the earth. And the temple was opened in heaven, and the ark of his covenant appeared in the temple. And there were lightnings, thunders, voices, earthquakes, and large hail. That was the last sign, trumpet. Okay? And now we're going to see what? The judgment. Okay? This is the seventh bowl. Okay? Or the seventh vial. And it reads, and it says, and the seventh angel poured his vessel into the air, and a great voice went out from the temple from before the throne, which said, it is done. And there were lightnings and thunderings, and there was a great earthquake, the like of which earthquake that there has not been since people have been upon the earth. It was so great, and the great city became three parts, and the cities of the nations fell, and Babylon the Great was remembered before God, to give it the cup of the wine of his passion and his wrath. And every island fled, and the mountains were not found. And great hailstones, about a talent, fell from the sky of the children of men. And the children of men cursed God because of the plagues of hail, because his plague was very great. Okay? So we were dealing with the sign. What are the signs of Yah's judgment? Okay? As a summary, we can see that the flood, Noah was given insight to pre-warn his people, right? Gave them a period of time, or not even his people, the nations, to get themselves right before the calamity hits. Babel, the father, sent confusion upon the earth. right? Another sign, Sodom and Gomorrah, where there was sexual promiscuity and lasciviousness and uh, uncleanliness, sodomy, right? Homosexuality, all these different things, right? These were the signs. And one of the signs is that he sent his angels to the place that was going to be destroyed. That's why you should be worried that when you're entertaining strangers, because you may be entertaining angels unawarely, right? Then we have Egypt, the signs of Egypt, the blood, rivers turning to blood, plagues, locusts, hail, boils, days of darkness, death, right? These are the signs of Yah's judgment. Then we have the wilderness journey. This is the children of Israel. This is specifically to the children of Israel, that those that don't believe, because just because you're the children of Israel doesn't mean that you're not going to experience judgment. If you do not believe, because it mentions that the unfaithful, right? They were the ones who were going to receive the plagues. And in the book of Numbers, those that didn't believe in being able to take the land, they were made to wander in the wilderness for 40 years. So those that don't believe or have faith in who? Right? They are also going to be made to wander and go in circles. Their life will end up being like a conveyor belt where they'll just be going in circles, getting nowhere, running around, getting nowhere fast. Right? That's a sign of Yah's judgment. Then there's war and destruction. Right? Rumors of wars, all these things. These are the signs of Yah's judgment. It's coming. Then we've got the signs of heaven, moon, eclipses. These are the signs of Yah's judgment. And then we just dealt with the trumpets and the plagues, where the trumpets are actually the signs and the vials are actually the judgments. Okay? It's the judgments that you've got to be worried about. Read the book of Revelation, chapter 16. They're not to be played with. These things that are coming on this earth, you best check yourself. You see? So I only hope the reader and listen to this word will be blessed by this. And may Yahweh bless you. May Yahweh keep you. May Yahweh cause his face to shine upon you. May Yahweh be gracious to you. May Yahweh lift up his countenance upon you. And may Yahweh grant you everlasting peace in Yahshua and Messiah's name I pray. Selah.